It's time for Dr. Rademaker's prescription for transformation. Let's tap into your own authentic genius and live the life you desire.
You are now listening to
Join Dr. Rademaker for an enlightened conversation about our brain intelligence, our body intelligence, and our energy intelligence. And now, here's your host, Dr. Bart Rademaker.
Well, I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is a prescription for your transformation. Real people, real conversations, and real success. And I've added something to that, another component that I'm very excited about is capable of more and capable of better. And some people kind of wonder, why is this guy looking to the side every time we start? Is he distracted, like we're in this world of distraction? And that's kind of what this topic is about today. Is the distraction of all the information to what's really important. And just as a footnote, I have 5 screens here, and I got to make sure that everything's connected and aligned and everything's working, because I'm a one-man show and I'm doing it all on my own together with Robin over there in Arizona, so I appreciate her help. And so the key here is distraction. In this world of technology, in this world of so much advancements, what is the meaning of any particular business? What is that brand? What is it that we're communicating to other people? And oftentimes it can get very confusing as to what really that brand is. Quite frankly, if you ask people, what is Starbucks? And most people will say, look, it's a place where they sell coffee, and that's the brand. What is it? And so what's great about incredible individuals like Paul McFarland, and I have such a great pleasure to be talking to him today after a 1.5-year pause, because we did an interview way back when, and he's been a great follower of this show. But what people like him get to do is really transform a business in their ability to deliver that message in such a way that people get it. And so I'm not going to, divulge, what his secret is, because it's a very simple one. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be alive.
So one thing that I really appreciate about your philosophy and your approach to things, and you said something about a designer for a better life, designer for a happier life. And I know you don't promote yourself that way, but that's ultimately your outcome. And actually, in fact, it's also mine. And so we're very much in alignment with that, because, if we are thought leaders that can really dramatically change things for others, even if it's just one person, then this world is a better place. But more importantly, it's your absolute optimism. And, I love all the comments that you've given me over the years. But tell us a little bit about your philosophy of life. What's important for you? And then we'll go into what it is about branding and your business that you're really good at.
My philosophy of life is always changing and growing. But more and more, I'm noticing that, why am I in physical form now? I'm pretty sure in my most recent existence, I was pure energy, just zooming around the cosmos. And a few years ago, I finally woke up to the fact, and I was sort of complaining to universal intelligence, what, a body again? Okay, so that's a potential lesson. What does it mean to have the physicality and senses of sight and hearing and smell and taste and touch? What does that mean? Well, one of these alien bits of technology, our index fingers and thumbs are more important than ever before, and we're choosing what not to look at. Notice I said choose what not to look at, because would you say distractions? In this industry, people would talk about, we see X number of thousand of messages every day. And I heard that in the 1970s. So what was it, David Crosby? He said when he got on the stage at Woodstock, he went 1, 2, 3, many. And that's enough. See, you don't need to say, quantify how much distraction is, but there's so much. So I'm here to experience life in this physical form through my senses. And I believe in totality. In other words, I'm going to see amazing, beautiful things. I'm going to smell amazing scents. I want to taste delicious things. I want to hear amazing music. I'm going to move to great things. And you know what? I'm on the side of every other person on the planet who wants the same things. So happiness, in that basic sense of enjoying our senses, having happy thoughts, aren't we all essentially in that same business?
So what's your secret? I mean, I love what you're saying, because, you know, ultimately it's my belief that we all desire divine happiness. And, you know, the way to simplify it, because I know that you're very much about simplifying things, is that all you have to do is resolve whatever makes you unhappy. I get that. That's awesome. But we also have to incorporate very specific strategies like you've just shared with us in that respect. And one that comes to mind as you're sharing this is really presence. It's really awareness. And so it doesn't just come automatically that you are present and you're aware. And so do you have like rituals or practices that allow you to, you know, really embrace everything that's around your physicality, right? So that it's a constant reminder, or it's a helpful tool, if you will, to stay present. Because with all these distractions, it's easy not to not choose what you're not supposed to look at, but actually look at what you're not supposed to look at.
Yeah. Dr. Bart, you said something in that. That's the key, I think, is what are the rituals? Well, the fact that I'm speaking this pretty American English to you, you're speaking American English to me, and we're understanding each other is because we ritualized learning a language. We practiced the F out of it. We were told to, we were made to, we heard it every day. And that allows us to potentially communicate. So if I have a secret, it's things that I've ritualized too. Good question. I happen to have tape right here. My daily rituals. I do success reading. I do some networking and self-promotion. I do transcendental meditation twice a day. I practice Tai Chi Chuan. Right? I practice Niederlands. I use the Calm app. I get some exercise, and I make sure I'm.
I love it.
So, anyone who knows how to do a screenshot, feel free to steal this. The older may not want to learn about you. So I have a reminder here to do the things that I really enjoy. And in life, what did you enjoy when you were 8 years old? Did you enjoy something different when you were 12, when you were 17, when you were 25, not? Well, there's very little, but they're precious, of things that I enjoyed when I was a small boy that I still enjoy today. Very little, but they're there. Laughter is consistent. So it takes discipline, and I think I talk about this all the time. So 1.8 years ago, I bet I mentioned this too. Discipline means to be a follower, disciple, right? Discipline. And the greatest discipline of all is to give yourself an order, and you follow it. And what I want to follow is the things that make me healthy and good at living. And those are the ritualized things that I do.
So on that list, right, this concept of transcendental meditation, and how has that impacted your life, and how long have you been doing that? Because it's one thing that I've been constantly looking at. I haven't taken the time to do it, And you know the common story of the monk and the student, and the student tells the monk, he says, look, how long do I have to meditate every day? And the monk says, well, 20 minutes. And the student says, well, that's too long. I can't do that. And then the monk replies, well, then you must do an hour every day. So share a little bit about your personal experience on transcendental meditation and how it's actually transformed your life, because this is what this platform is really all about. Because we hear all these things out there and we read these things and we never can, well, I shouldn't say never, it's sometimes challenging to really know the authenticity or reliability of some information that's out there. And so with that transcendental meditation, what would you recommend for others? And how has it impacted you?
Sure. I'll try not to sound like a reformed smoker. But I've been interested in meditation since high school. And I read all sorts of things trying to find out what it was and played with it in different ways. But about 2 years ago, I met a woman and we were dating, and she practiced transcendental meditation. So I went to the local transcendental meditation center, and I paid my initiation fee, which is not cheap, and I got the ritualized way of going into it. And as they say, the first time you do it, you're already an expert. That's why I believe transcendental meditation is the one I tell most people to do, because it is so easy and simple. Now, transcendental meditation. Where did any of us hear this? I heard it because the Beatles went to India and they were with Maharishi Mahesh. And he was quite a clever, wacky kind of guy. And when he came to America, there was a famous interview where he had this idea to set up the meditation community in Fairfield, Iowa. Field of dreams, field of meditation. Why, Iowa? Well, the American reporter asked him, so this is going to take a lot of money, Maharishi. Where will the money come from? And he said, from wherever it is now. That tells you a lot about what he's like. So, indeed, it is 20 minutes. In fact, if we have a saying, it's take it easy. It doesn't require holding on to a thought or ridding yourself of thought or any kind of struggle whatsoever. It actually improves the central nervous system. In fact, Maharishi said that the goal of meditation is to advance and evolve the central nervous system, and that is the true human evolution. Pretty cool. But anyway, the practice is 20 minutes, and ideally twice a day. You have to do it twice a day, but it's better because if I do it early in the morning, I hesitate to say first thing, but early in the morning, you get the benefit of that. And then if you do it end of the day, depending on what you're doing in the evening, you get the benefit. If you do it before going to sleep, you don't get the same benefit.
So just for those out there just listening into this, and the whole concept of TM or transcendental meditation might be a little hard or big or a challenge to do. And so one thing that I've learned recently is you can also begin the practice of what's called micro meditations. And those are really short meditations. Just take a time out. I also wrote that in my book, timeouts. The truth is that you have children. If anybody who has children knows that they put their kids in timeout sometimes. Well, it's only because their brain is on overload. And we're no different. We just behave in a more sophisticated and complicated way, and perhaps one that doesn't serve us, because at least a child will let it out and then it's over. We repress it, and then it causes a lot of internal stress. And so my own personal practice is what I actually do is every morning I do a meditation. Probably not a transcendental meditation, but it's just being in a peaceful state, in a calm state, one of your key things. And just paying attention to what's around me. Do it for 10 minutes. Just aware of, what aches or pains or feelings or sensations I have in my body, what I'm hearing around me, the noise of the fan, or other sounds of the house. And it's quite remarkable that you feel very much more at peace and grounded simply because of that. And you actually can do that throughout your day. But here's another thing that I'm curious about, because one thing that I think is absolutely, essential for our own personal well-being is our own personal expansion, our own self-actualization, if you will. And clearly you're in this world as a person that has a very broad perspective of everything, being a business and brand strategist, being a teacher, being a coach, being a musician, and a whole bunch of other things that you told me early on that you do. And so the idea that you clearly have with connected with that optimism that you have, and beautiful combination there, the desire for growth and knowing that you can grow to a much higher level. And so my question then for you is, why Dutch?
Well, the thing that I'm really wondering about Dutch, the Netherlands, is that I found out pretty quickly it has some somewhat superficial and frequent connections with Deutsch. And I never liked German because, and I'll tell you why. When I was a kid, and I got my first Deutsche gramophone records because it was classical and there was Ravi Shankar, records. Still have. They would have like the libretto or notes in several languages. I think Rosetta Stone. Right? The German was always like a paragraph or so longer. I thought, screw that. I'm not interested in something that takes longer to say something. And then you study it and you realize the way long words come. You make new words by just banging on little bits and you get them along. Like in college, I learned that there was no good German word for art history. The closest word was Kunstwissenschaft. And Kunstwissenschaft is art science. So it's, So why the Dutch? The Dutch is because I finally paid attention about 3 years ago that country and culture has been tapping on my shoulder all of my life. Every artist that I loved for no reason were all Dutch. Van Eyck. Sorry, I said that Dutch way. Van Eyck. Rembrandt. Van Gogh. Vermeer. Even the Bruegels, you get sort of Flemish. Whatever. And I thought, okay, of all the art in the world, why am I okay? And then the 1974 Netherlands World Cup team. That was what they call the pressing football, the total football, with Johan Cruyff and all the guys, And that style just blew me away, and it stayed with me. And then I've always been drawn to canals. The Venice canals, Los Angeles, is my favorite part of all. I like the idea of having waterways of water and having homes close to water, which it could be an oceanside, it could be a bay, it could be a river, but there's something. So then you add on to, over the years, you pick up things about different parts of the world. In the Netherlands, they've closed 5, 6, 7, whatever, or more prisons. Closed, which in the United States, in case anyone was interested, that would be like closing 10 or 20,000. It's the tolerance, It's the idea that, look, people are going to have sex, and if they don't have a lover, they're going to pay for it. It's just a fact of life. So we will do this, and we will do this, and we will tax it, and we will make sure they get inspections, and blah, 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 regulated. And no, you can't take pictures in the red light district. All reasonable, logical things. You see, the other country I really love, by the way, is Canada. The most reasonable people in this entire hemisphere. So that reasonability and tolerance is very attractive to me. The fact that there's so much art and design and business and diversity, and by the buildings are there. The canal houses, can't help it. They're narrow because they were taxed on how wide the building was, so they went up. So they put all their expression in the gables, the step gable, the bell gable, all the head gable, the neck gables. They put some expression in there. I just think that's just so charming. And also I realize maybe through genealogy, maybe through past lives, intellectually, I'm a Northern European. I'm a humanist. I like to be very direct. I don't like a lot of BS in conversation. But I also realize emotionally I'm a Mediterranean. You can meet me in a few minutes, a lot of lines open, remember the family we're friends forever. And that gives me that. And so also I love the stimulation of the brain. I use the app Duolingo. But a few years ago, I was practicing Spanish and French. So if you don't get enough daily practice in the world, it's a little tough. Since I made a decision and moving to the Netherlands, this is like, this is definitely going to happen. And the country gives you 10 years to become an official citizen. You must pass a Dutch test. And I feel very optimistic I'll be able to do that.
Well, whatever you need as far as help, let me know, because as you know, I was born in Holland. I'm now naturalized here in the United States. And it is an amazing country. It's an amazing culture, and very much.
No, it's a district. Come on, Holland is not a country. It's an area of the Netherlands.
Well, that's true. I stand corrected.
Unless you're one of those people who think there's nothing else in this country but we are, like Toronto is about Ontario.
But here's what's true, and you'll find out that a lot of them will call themselves Hollanders, even
Right.
though. So it is kind of acceptable to use that.
Yeah.
But because saying the Netherlands for a lot of people is a little harder, and Hollander, it just has a nicer roll off the top. But yes, you are.
Hollanders and the Dutch.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So
Another area I really want to, maybe a second home that would be out of the way of the tourist boats.
Right.
In the other canal village of Giethoorn.
And where?
Giethoorn.
Oh, Gatorade. Okay, yeah. So, but anyhow, what I was saying is that the Netherlanders, then, right, to say it properly, it's an incredible culture and what they've accomplished over the years, and it's a very much unrecognized culture these days. And until I think about the 1980s, the Netherlands was the largest foreign investor in the United States. Then it was taken over by another small country, Japan, and now it's from a big country called China. So I'm excited for that, and absolutely we'll have to get on the phone and practice the Dutch.
See the connection. There was the Dutch East Indies and the Dutch West Indies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the fact, and the statistic might not be absolutely accurate, so I don't mind you correcting me if you know the information better than I do. But it was always my understanding as colonists that the Dutch were larger colonists than anybody else, larger than the British, larger than the Spanish and the French, simply because of the areas that they went to. And what was also interesting, they
money.
Yeah, but they also were not as brutal, apparently, as some of the others. But that I might stand corrected on that one.
Well, it's sort of like, which is worse, this or this or this? If it hurts, it hurts. I don't think colonialism has done a darn good thing for anybody. So someone's person.
Well, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, different conversation. But yeah, but you see, there's a practicality and directness. It's like during the height of the Gilded Age, for them, they had homeless people. You know what they did? They put them on a barge. Because when people came in to visit, they wanted the town to look nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But again, I think what is true is that the Dutch are very socially conscious, and there's a high level of thinking, and it's quite brilliant how they take care of their own. And
anyone's going to have global warming, and lowlands are going to flood. Ask the Dutch; they know how to do it.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's about a fifth of the country is actually below sea level. So maybe it's going to be all of it with all this global warming. But changing the subject, which is
Oh, really? I don't think so.
Yeah. Because we want to talk about something that you're great at, and that's being a brand strategist. And I think, that's an important aspect of what I also want to share on this platform is helping people get in touch, if you will, with different approaches to either their personal life, which is what we just talked about, but also their own personal business. So tell us a little bit about the concept of what of the brand strategy or brand strategies that you do, what's important in that, but also the part where you talk about making things simple.
Well, I'll make everything simple here. The simple truth is that we all hate advertising. 99.99999% of the time. For good reason.
What is the reason?
Well, you guess. It's the interruption, and most of the time it's stupid, it's ugly, non-compelling, all those things. And we get good at numbing ourselves to it. When I was a kid, people on the talk shows would talk about the funny commercial for this or that, and the commercials were almost as funny or as good as some of the programming or better. And now you could say that television, whatever TV is, programming is better than most commercials. If your TV is something you see on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or whatever, you can get some pretty interesting, well-crafted stuff. So, starting with the fact that advertising should almost begin with an apology for advertising itself. That shows a respect that rarely happens. And the simplicity, basic human needs. You know, I'm not the person who invented the 7 basic human stories, but they're all based on basic human needs. A quest, a journey, return, rags to riches, rebirth, renewal, tragedy, comedy, you know, these basic things. And some brands occupy them very well, but the simple, might have been Steve Jobs who said, any idiot can complicate something. It takes genius to simplify. Okay. There are things I would love to talk about, but I can't. But I will talk about some things that I can talk about. I find over and over and over again that the basic human truth is no one's talking about it. In fact, we all want love, right? If we were honest, we'd be walking through life with our arms out saying, love me, love me, love me, if we were honest. And I'm sorry, Subaru and McDonald's, but you're not doing it right. I'm loving it. It's too close to saying, oh, I love this taco. And I'm sorry, our English language is a pitifully poor language if we don't have the right word for that. And if you love something about a Subaru, well, then go deeper into it. You know? They're going halfway, if at all. Well, I think the basic, simple, what makes us human is what we should be talking about. If you have a product, if you have a business, if you have a service that is providing something wonderful, beautiful, healthy, enlightened, something for a lot of human beings, you have every right to be able to tell your story and be present in the world to get people to consider buying your service or product. Get over it. I sell things, but I'm very particular about myself. In other words, I'll pay you a quick compliment here, but it'll be a sweet one. There are a lot of people who do things like this. A talking head with another talking head talking about making life better, helping you do better or what. And you can close your eyes, throw a rock out the window, and you will hit a motivational coach this year. So I don't follow very many, but I follow yours because there is a human sweetness about everything you do. And that human sweetness is your stock and trade, I believe. And that's why people follow you, and that's why everything you do happens.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. So, business. Simple. There's so many simple ways to do it. 2 capital B's. What do you believe? Oh, we believe that people are ignoramuses and we just want to suck all the money out of their wallet as quick as possible. All right, then behave that way. And we do. Or we believe that people are happier when they have things that are well crafted, and elegant, and easy, and beautiful to work with. Oh, you believe that? So behave that way. We make things that way. See, it's quite simple. And again, I find it remarkably wonderful that when I look for URLs for clients, I find things that no one else has thought of that are so simple and great. And I find human values that are untapped, like love, like happiness. But, okay, there's one I can talk about without giving it away, but I can talk about what it's about. All right, Dr. Bart, what do you think are some of the main things that human beings think about and talk about the most?
So I would say it's about money, it's about health, it's relationships, and it used to be religion and spirituality, but I think that's coming down almost to like number 0, unfortunately. I would say those main things, and medical issues.
Yeah, I'm going to toss out another one, and this isn't the point, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. I think we think about this all the time, but we aren't aware that we're thinking about it. It's death.
Okay.
When we look in the mirror, I think we're thinking about death on some level. When we take in something beautiful, we may think it may never happen again. Why do we not want to be alone? Because we don't want to be alone. You know, I mean, all the distractions that prevent us from thinking deeply about death. Oh yeah, that's industry upon industry. But another way of asking that question is, why are you really here? Who are you? What is here? Right? We'll go a little deeper. Now we're in existential thinking, but why are you here? Are you here just to go to school, go to work, and get a mortgage and die? Okay. Maybe some people get their comfort and their happiness from that. Okay. But if people suspect they want more wisdom, more knowledge, more physical experiences, all right, then why are you really here? Why is a business really here? And what people want from life and what businesses want from people, well, harmonize.
They want what?
Harmonize.
Harmony. Mm-hmm.
In other words, I've been working on something for a few years. It's kind of a really big, audacious thing I want to achieve. I'm never giving up on it. And basically what it's going to do is ask people to consider their place in the grand sweep of time.
I love it.
A brand that's been around for a long time, that now is a dynamo, where I could be invited to consider my place in the grand sweep of time and history, and what is my role in that potentially. And you know what? You smile because that sounds like something fairly fresh and thoughtful, doesn't it? Why no one else has come up with this, I'm happy to say, and that's just cool, but that's what my business. I come up with things that no one else thinks about all the time.
Right.
They're based on something deep, human, simple. But think of the Washington Monument, Masonic structure. It's a pyramid, a obelisk. Everything I do is sort of like that. It's got a sharp point, so, you know. But if you go in, the more you dig, the more you'll find. It's deep, significant, meaningful. Lots of legs with it. It's there. I can talk about my business in so many ways. There's not a really simple one. Pretend a pond or a lake is an industry. Well, if there's enough budget, I can get a bunch of people to lift a really big boulder and toss it in there. And that'll make such a splash that everyone will turn and look at that because they'll hear it and see it, and then the ripples go out. All my ideas do that. Because again, I want to be here to increase happiness, love, unity, oneness, and goodwill among as many people as possible. And with big, visible brands, that's a good way to do it. And if you do it in the right way, they benefit big time. I was talking to a young man in Tupelo, Mississippi, if you know Tupelo, Mississippi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and there's a big city not far from there. We wanted to help something with my company. I said, let's look at some big businesses in this big city. And we picked one, and I instantly had one of these ideas. And I think the truth is a giant firm. It's in a particular industry. If you can get people to fall in love with that essential product and think about it for the first time in maybe their lifetime, that ripple effect might mean that people all over the world might use that product just a little bit more. And then you put that on scale, holy cow, they should erect a statue for it. Not that I want a statue. So that's the truth. It's like in any business, carve away the complexity and the BS. And that's what people in my business love to exist in, all the complexity of the processes and whatever. It's just simple. Find something beautiful and differentiating, and then make sure it works inside the company, out to their world, and move on to the next one. I just keep.
That's a really interesting idea, and you saw me, getting all giddy and excited because, in truth, I have figured out, in essence, what that purpose is for me, and when we talk about the self-actualizing theory, which most people are not even beginning to appreciate, simply because it's not part of the modus operandi in businesses today. And as you know, the self-determination theory is about autonomy, it's about mastery, and it's also about purpose. And so that's where, when we can tap into all of that, that's where we can really thrive. And, it's my belief, it's not my belief, I think it's just fact, that, you have these businesses, and I'm not critical of these businesses, but the structure that they've incorporated over time is preventing from that self-exploration, that self-expansion for so many people. And that's where I think, in essence, a lot of people are just simply lost. They don't have a purpose, or they have a purpose, but they're not aware of that. And I think if you created something that people could just be part of, on their free time, in essence, or just all the time, that would have a tremendous and fundamental impact on people's lives today, because then you have something actually to live for. Then you are part of something bigger than yourself. One of the things that I know that as far as businesses, and oftentimes managers and executives get this wrong, is that the reason people are employed or stay employed in business is not because of the money and the earnings that they get, but it's because they're part of something bigger and they trust the people. And the smart entrepreneurs and the smart business CEOs know that. And so what's exciting about this concept that you're bringing up is that, and I'll be an absolute supporter of it, let you know what I can do to help and promote it, because that would be a beautiful gift for people. And it's no different than the kind of work that I'm trying to do as well. And I like the fact that you're trying to make things simple, and that, I've gone to joined several humanitarian trips, and I had my own program at one point as well, where I was just making it easier for people to be part of something so that they could also be transformed and be part of the transformation of others. And so when people like you create a structure by which people can partake and make it easy for them, here, like it's ready to go sort of thing, that's beautiful.
I just thought, you don't know about this. This is something I did for a local plastic surgeon. A few months ago, a friend of mine's neighbor, plastic surgeon, And in the first meeting, I had this idea, and this is what we did. We made a video to follow the young woman from the moment she woke up, got dressed, brushed her teeth, drove to work, saw people, showing that she had a new attitude. In fact, a friend of mine got a great song about this is it, it's a new attitude, and music up tempo rocking pop song. And you got this great energy that she had this new attitude, and everything she was doing. Oh, I forgot to mention, you never see her face. The entire video, you only see her from behind. See her trying on clothes in the mirror behind, brushing her teeth in the mirror behind her, driving the car. People seeing her and saying, wow, you look great, hugs and all this stuff, and never see her. And why do you never see her? Give me a good nod if I hit a truth here. When people think about plastic surgery, it's a series of value judgments, especially in before and afters. Women especially love to say, oh boy, she had a horrible chin. The nose, she looks much better now. Oh God, that was bad look. Oh, she looked better before. Value judgments. That's why people in the business like to do before and afters, because people love. But with this, we took it out of what everyone else does with before and afters and put it into the imagination of the viewer, who imagines, what does she look like? What did she look like? Oh, I wonder. So the idea was, and I think that's where they did it, when you click through and you went to a certain page about rhinoplasty, because it was about rhinoplasty. The only text on the whole thing said, a new nose, a new attitude, and logo. That was it. And if you went to the page, there was another version of the video at the very end. She ends in the car. She turns around, points her nose, and winks at us. So that's another example where we take something so simple, just don't show the product, and use imagination to say that what it's really about is an attitude.
It's interesting you say that, because it's a trap that I think a lot of people fall into in marketing, or whether it's their blogs, or whether it's the book that they're writing. They're falling in love with their own stuff, and they're falling in love with the message. And oftentimes they might not take into account that there's somebody else on the other side, reading this or experiencing this or perceiving this. And it's really incumbent in all of us to really understand and appreciate, what is it that they really want or need. The hallmark of great leaders is to know what other people need, understand, have that insight, and then give them what they need. That's what leadership really is, whatever that looks like. And so what's interesting, as you're describing this, what I'm realizing is that we're not force-feeding anybody specific information, just kind of like you alluded to. Again, if you look at certain faces, you may connect with them or you may not connect with them just because of what they look. If they have a big nose, or some people like big noses, some people don't, and they'll be immediately judgmental. So you're taking away that ability to be judgmental, and you're letting that imagination, that fantasy flow, and imagining and causing them to kind of imagine for themselves what it would be like to be that person, to see this other person come to you and say, oh my gosh, you look amazing. That's quite clever, I have to admit.
It's just so easy for me to find things that no one else is doing. It's like, I hope I live a long time. I could do a lot of good in this life. But you said beginnings was really true. Most businesses and brands show very little respect or love for the people they're trying to sell to. And the agencies probably don't either. You get a bad attitude pretty quickly. But there's also that thing that brands talk about, and agencies, that they want people to engage with the brand. I've never engaged with a brand my whole life. Just because I bought a t-shirt or I bought the product, I'm sorry, I don't want to hang out with you on Saturday night. So it's ludicrous, some of the things that people actually give voice to. But there's this idea that when a brand does its job right, you arrive and there, you're done. You've landed. This will be the one I'll use for all time. This is the website I'll hang out on. This is the Facebook page I'll, for some reason, comment on. It's beyond the pale that that's the expectation. I think instead, it should be a quest. Like Nike is a quest. You know, their own internal gestalt is a saying that says there is no finish line. They're asking the world, how athletic can we become? How far can you go in your sport or in your fitness, you see? That's not a journey in return, that's a quest. And I'm sort of on a similar quest. I mean, how happy and beautiful can I make the world? How much better can I make this industry? And if you don't stop at a business or a brand, but you pause and you have another journey to go on, where that brand maybe is your guide, or is your chaperone, or is your conveyance, that's a whole different way of looking at it. But you see, that's calm, that's confident, and it's more relaxed. That's not anxious and hyper. You know, well, we got to tell them this, got to tell them this, put this out there more, we got to spend more on Facebook, we got to send them another email. Oh my God. I have a meme that I put out on social media. Sometimes it shows this little young girl that's kind of our mascot. And it just says, your brand smells like revenue. If your brand smells like revenue, in fact, I'm going to pick on my favorite beverage in the world, which is Guinness. A beautiful beverage, just like mother's milk, it has, you know. Well, in the United States, they came out with a Guinness blonde lager. Do I smell revenue? Does that seem like something Guinness had to do because they're Guinness? No, it sounds like something someone like me said, Americans aren't really picking up and, you know, aren't going to become Guinness drinkers. You're going to do something for Americans. They drink lighter, fizzier beers. And they made a Guinness blonde lager for America. Oh.
I hear you.
You know, that smells like revenue. And if you smell like revenue, you're doing it wrong.
Right. You know, that's why I remember the old commercials of Heineken. I don't know if they do them anymore, but you know, Heineken is a brilliant brand, very successful brand. The company owns I don't know how many different kinds of beverages. But what's interesting about Heineken and their commercials were always, you know, reaching parts.
Refreshes the parts other beers can't reach.
Right, exactly. And it's a beautiful concept, and I think that you know is consistent with what you're saying, because one thing that I appreciate in what you're sharing right now, what I like about that idea of it's a journey, and there's never an end to the journey. There's just another
actually a quest. See, a journey has a return, but a quest.
Yeah, so there's never an end of the quest because the quest always continues. And that's life as well. And I think what happens, and correct me on this one because you're that expert. In essence, what's happening so often is that it's the fear of missing out, and so all these labels are put out there. That unless
I gotta check my Facebook.
There you go.
There.
You know,
red dot itis.
You know, I thought there was a fire there for a second. So, and again, and that's where there's this massive push to have all these things. You know, my personal massive push, more than anything else, is actually to create an aesthetic environment around me. When I have that aesthetic environment, now it does require a lot of things. I got 5 screens right here that I'm looking at, and I got my stream decks. I got 2 stream decks, and everything to make my life easier. I mean, they have a very specific purpose. Now, for some people, you know, they wouldn't need all these things, but none of them have labels. But what they have is that allows me to go on that quest more effectively. And I think that's unfortunate. I think that's the challenge, perhaps, that as consumers we have to deal with when all this marketing is just forcing all these ideas, like you must have this, and you must have that, and you must be this. And
hurry now.
Huh?
Hurry now.
Right. And it's unfortunate because, especially with all this technology we have today and the distractions, it's so easy to lose ourselves and then get caught up, with the need to identify with something. And so that's why I think your idea, your concept is so brilliant, because like Starbucks, as you started off in earlier on, for those people who don't know what Starbucks really does, but what they're marketing is a meeting place outside of the home, outside of business, and outside of the bar. And
Yeah.
I don't think many people appreciate that, because that's what they've marketed and that's what they're selling.
Everybody wants that. Used to be called the third destination,
Mm-hmm.
and be that.
I mean, quite frankly, I think there's better coffee in other places. But the point is in essence, you'll be creating this as well, and I'm very much looking forward to see that evolve, because that's what society needs these days, and that's my purpose in life, is how do I give back to source, and again, in essence, that's what you're allowing people to do, is contribute back to source by being part of something bigger than themselves.
Right. I wish I had a graphic of a giant asterisk. I would have pulled it up right now, because here's an asterisk. I realized some time ago that I'm an adventurer. And I used to think that people who didn't want to be adventurers were, on some level, wrong. I don't think that anymore. I realize they're different. And there are people who get their happiness, their joy, their comfort from familiarity. Well, everything's given to go. Here we do this, and we watch these movies on Christmas, and it's like, oh, I love it here. Why would you go anywhere else? Driving me crazy. I couldn't do that. That's okay for them. And I don't even think I need to convert them into being adventurous, because let me define. That's what they like, right? But an adventurous, I define it this way: an adventurous who wants adventure so much, they're willing to suffer in the name of adventure. If you want to become a bodybuilder, you're going to suffer to do that. If you want to travel the world and see exotic places, you might get sick. You may be in a dangerous place, but it's okay, because that's what you want to do. So knowing in my business, if we're talking to people who want familiarity, how can you go deeper into what that means and what the benefit of that is? And if people are adventurous, going deeper into that. And so
and that's
what to say here, a better world through advertising. Hope people who are watching this understand what I'm talking about. This isn't about simply me making money or me getting more clients, even though I want both. It's about the idea that what is a better world? More peaceful, more happy, safer, more secure, more interesting, more beautiful, right? We all want the same things, and I'm doing my part to make that happen.
Yeah, and we're very much in alignment as we're wrapping it up, because what I'm doing is, through the prescription of your transformation, tapping into your authentic genius, it's really about tapping into the collective wisdom, creating that space of generative collaboration. And that's exactly what you're doing in a very different way. And I love that, because, how can we work together in this peaceful world? And it's our job. It's our job to, step up that vibration, that level of consciousness, so that we can be more intelligent in creating this global community, or let's expanding this global community, so that we can work together and taking responsibility for where we are. But then again, we need thought leaders and light bearers like yourself to help people show that way. And quite frankly, in the world of advertising, if you're helping people express a better way of life, in essence, that's technically what advertising is supposed to do, is how do we increase life? I applaud you for doing that. So Paul, I really want to thank you for today. And I want to give you the last word, and also share with us how we connect with you.
How to connect with me first. The company is called the 1101 Experiment. That's THE1101. And why did I choose 1101? Connect with me and I'll tell you. It means something. The 1101 Experiment.org, or if you want to be playful, .org. So it's the 1101 Experiment.org.
Great.
Everything happens from there. All right. So last word is basically, I don't know how long I'm going to live. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to make this world more beautiful, more happy, more interesting, and thoughtful. And if a company or an individual has a business or a brand that believes in that too, I want to work with you, because by doing so, you should profit massively. And at the end of the day, you can look yourself in the mirror and not flinch and feel good about what you did.
Spot on, right on, and I applaud you for that. Well, thank you, Paul. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, prescription for your transformation, real people, real conversations, real success, and again, capable of more and capable of better. And signing off, and Robin, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks for listening to Dr. Rademaker's Prescription for Transformation. Join Dr. Bart Rademaker live right here on Radio Star Worldwide each week, or on demand 24/7.